Hi everyone, it's John from RFM Calc, and today I'm talking about Volusion. So Volusion is a US-based software as a service e-commerce platform. If I just scroll down to the bottom here, you can see they're based out of Austin in Texas. So there's not actually a huge amount of history on the website in terms of when they were founded and so on. I did have a look around and I couldn't really find much. What I did find reading elsewhere is that they were launched in 1999, so certainly one of the oldest e-commerce platforms in existence. And according to the literature I read, they currently power around 40,000 e-commerce stores worldwide. Builtwith.com says around 9,000, so I would guess the true number is somewhere in between those two. You can see basically from the opening of the website that they're designed really for anyone to come on and create an e-commerce store, so very much in that Shopify mold. They've got quite a few examples, and they brag here about a seamless checkout experience and connecting with various third-party platforms. And if we look at the pricing, if I just scroll up here, the pricing is very much in line with Shopify as well. In fact, these plans are exactly the same price that Shopify currently charges. So you can see they've really pitched themselves as a direct comparison to Shopify. So today we're going to talk about Volusion, obviously, as a platform. I'm going to go through a little admin demo in terms of how it works. We're then going to talk about how to export orders as a CSV file, because like any good e-commerce platform, you can export orders in the format needed for RFM Calc. We'll then take a deep dive into the structure of that CSV file in terms of the data it contains, and then we'll run through how to upload that then into RFM Calc to generate all our advanced e-commerce reports. So, as a starting point, let's have a little look at the admin dashboard area. So, for the purposes of this demo, I've set up a 14-day free trial, which was very handy, and this is what it looks like. So this is the dashboard area when you log in. So you can see you've got some basic stats in terms of products sold, categories, overall revenue, the kind of basic stuff you'd expect to see. There's a help here as well, so you can chat or call if you've got any questions, which is interesting and gives that impression of personalised support. You've got this chat with an expert, live chat down here, which I must admit I haven't tried, but I'm sure there's support on the end of that. You've got a few options across the top, so orders I'll come back to, but I wanted to start first of all just with inventory. So if I go to categories here, you can see this doesn't actually present what I thought it would when I first came to this. So you've got kind of your nav menus here that you can set up, so you can set up various nav menus, and then within that you can add a category. So I've got products, which is the predefined one there. So again, that's not particularly intuitive, but you can then move it around in terms of the order that they show with a drag and drop interface. In fact, I've actually just lost products there. Where's it gone? You see, that was quite easy to lose there. So if I go to this, I can go, it's under contactors. How do I? Okay, there we go. So you can see by accident I managed to, I've done it again. I think I put it under about us now. So this bit is pretty clunky, I've got to be honest. Trying to make it, there we go. I'll just leave it as that as it is. I accidentally, as you can see, dragged products under one of these items, and then it wasn't immediately obvious. But obviously managed to fix it at the end. So that's the category section. In terms of the products themselves, so you can see here I've created a few kind of test products. So if I go into Dice t-shirt, for example, which is a test product I set up. So what I would say is this is fairly clunky. Everything's there that you need. So you've got Dice t-shirt for the name. You can upload an image, a SKU, a price, a weight, bit of a description. You can set the category and so on. Options works in a bit of a different way to a lot of sites where you have to kind of open this overlay. Size is pre-built, but then you can add additional options here with various variants within them. So this, I would say, is quite a lot clunkier than a lot of platforms in terms of setting that up. It wasn't very intuitive. And then you've got a few more options down here as well. Again, these aren't particularly intuitive, I would say. Inventory control grid, sorry. So you can see this option here allows you to set basically different stock levels and different prices based on the variants you create with the aforementioned options. So I've got an option size, I've created these options, and then you can expand that out to have a grid. So it works, but it's not particularly intuitive, I would say, in terms of how to set things up. import export we'll come back to, and then we've got a few other kind of options down here which I'm not going to run through today, around kind of products and categories as well. Next, we've got marketing. So we've got a few options in here in terms of kind of selling on Google, selling on eBay. So what you'll see is a lot of these are additional paid add-ons. So throughout the process, looking through the Volusion dashboard, there's various points where they will try and sell you additional services, which, you know, you can't really complain about, I suppose. But if I click this Start Selling with Google Shopping, you've got kind of some guides here, how to do this, and then we can help. So you can go to their marketing services, which they'll charge you for to help you do your PPC or Google Shopping. So it's really kind of an add-on service there that they're selling. And the same applies for the design side as well. So you've got a selection of themes here that you can select. So most of them from first glance appear to be paid. So you can buy a new theme for $180, which is kind of unusual. Normally you'd expect the majority of themes out of the box to be free. They do have free ones as well. So I'm using a free one. This one here called Minimal, but it's quite limited in terms of free themes. Most of them in terms of this selection are paid. And then you can go to the design here as well. There's an editor. So what you can do here, you can go through and you can change the color scheme, you can change the banners and things. I mean, this is actually just clicking through to the site rather than actually letting me edit it. So it's not, again, as intuitive as you would expect. In fact, I can't actually see on this screen how to change the banner. I think I did manage to do it before, but this is certainly not the most intuitive e-commerce site editor I've seen. In fact, it's definitely at the lower end of the scale, in all honesty. But we'll come out of that. Then you've got some reports and kind of overall settings as well. So I think my overall impression, if we just go to the order screen and have a look at process orders. So you can see you've got this kind of order screen here, which gives you the basic information that you'd expect. And then if I click on an order ID, you get more information, which is fine. I think, to be honest, my overall feeling just looking at it is it does feel quite dated. Like really, really dated in terms of functionality. It's quite unintuitive to use. Lots of parts of it are fairly chunky. It does feel a little bit, this might be harsh to say, that it maybe hasn't changed too much since 1999. So I think 20 years ago this would have been great, but I think certainly pitching themselves pricing-wise against Shopify, this is way, way behind for me in terms of functionality and intuitiveness, which is a shame because, you know, more competitors for Shopify it's a good thing. But this is kind of, it was really, even for someone like me who's got many, many years of e-commerce experience, kind of actually setting up the store and customizing various bits was actually quite difficult. Having said that, they do have a way to export orders here. So it's not where you think. So there's nothing under orders. So again, this comes back to the kind of ease of use and trying to find things. The export process is actually under inventory. So if we go to import export here, you can then go to standard export. And you can then go down and find the orders table, which is this one here. So it's basically doing a raw export of the database. And you can check all the fields there. And then you can select CSV and click export. That then pushes the file to the browser there, which you can click download and save the CSV. So I'll come back to that in a second. Before I jump onto that CSV file, I just wanted to show a little bit on the front end as well. So just bear with me. So this is the front end of the store. You can see it's kind of, basic, but I've been able to customize this banner here. You've got your categories down the left-hand side. So on some themes, they appear directly across the top, but then you've got the burger menu here, which is fine. So I wanted to pick out one thing. If I go to products here, you can see I've got my Dice t-shirt, which I've set up for $11.99, including VAT. Now, one thing that's quite poor here is if I change the size option, you can see the price isn't updating. So if I go for double XL, if I just switch back to the admin page, you can see I've set up different pricing for each variant here. But on the front end, that doesn't pull through. Now, that's really pretty poor. It's one of the first e-commerce platforms I can remember, certainly in the last 15 years or so, that wouldn't update the price based on the variant you were offering. So that's not great. And then if I click add to cart, so you can see it's gone in, it says $11.99 here, it's gone in at $16.79, but then the subtotal is $16,000. So a different currency, different value. which is really strange as well. And this is, it seems so strange that a platform that's been around 20 years could still have these basic issues. So that's really, really poor, to be honest, and something I wasn't expecting. And then if I go through to my cart, you can see it's now back to $13.99 plus the VAT again. So yeah, and then even the styling and empty entire cart is just not particularly neat. The checkout is laid out fine. One thing you'll notice here is that there's no option for a guest checkout, so everyone who purchases has to create a password, which isn't the end of the world, but what you'll find with most e-commerce platforms now is that a guest checkout option is the default. The customer doesn't need to create an account. Again, this is something that's really, really old-fashioned and that I wasn't expecting. So I think overall, I'd say the front end is pretty disappointing. I think particularly considering the fact that it's on a direct comparison in terms of price level to Shopify. They're clearly pitching themselves as a competitor, but the functionality, just even the basic look and feel and how to add products and how it works on the front end, again, every time you click this cart slide out, I've got this $16,000 subtotal. Where is that coming from? It's really pretty poor. So you'd think after that amount of time that these basic things would have been addressed. And look, fair play to them. I'm sure there's a lot of good features that I've not highlighted today, but it just seems really, really strange to have such basic errors on a platform that's been established so long and is pitching itself at that kind of direct Shopify competitor level. So that's a real surprise. But look, nonetheless, I appreciate there's still people who use this platform, many thousands of people who are perfectly happy with, who may want advanced e-commerce reporting, of course. So let's have a look at that CSV file I downloaded a short time ago and see what it contains. So this is the CSV file I downloaded a short time ago. So this is directly from the orders table in the database. So Volusion, as I mentioned, just gives you an option basically to download a particular database table. So you can see in terms of the structure of the file, it's fairly standard, I would say. Orders run oldest to newest, which is fine. Obviously, different platforms will sometimes export orders newest to oldest with their CSV export, but RFM Calc can handle it either way. So you've got the order ID here. Then you've got the customer ID, which is interesting. So as I mentioned, you can't purchase on a Volusion store without creating an account, which isn't great from a front end point of view, but on the back end, it does mean every customer has an ID. That's really handy that's there because it doesn't pull through the customer's email address to this export, which is unfortunate. So we've got the first name, last name, billing address, billing phone number, shipping address, and then shipping phone number as well, even a shipping fax number, although I didn't see an option to populate that on the front end. But you can see the address fields are all there, but not the email field, which is interesting. You've then got the costs in terms of the shipping costs, the total payment amount as well, the payment method ID. So I've set up a few test options for kind of wire transfer or cash, which allows me to put through test orders without setting up a payment gateway. So that's a plus. So that comes through as an ID here as well. And then you've got a few other fields as well in terms of the date of the order. So this is in very much US format. So that's something to bear in mind. So this is the 3rd of February here, not the 2nd of March in terms of 2/3/2022. So that's something to bear in mind. Got the customer's IP address. And then the current order status as well, and then a few other kind of fields, just everything that's contained in that table. You can pass order comments through as well, so when the order is placed, the customer can leave a comment. So that's passed through there. And then you've got a few other, like I say, just everything that's in that database pulls through. So most of these fields, obviously auth hash, things like that, not needed at all for RFM Calc, but they're there should you need them for a different system. So yeah, overall, I think the structure's fine. Obviously, it doesn't contain any product data, it doesn't have the customer's email, but it does have enough for RFM Calc to generate our reports. So now that we know how the file is structured and we've got the file ready, let's upload it into RFM Calc. Okay, so I'm going to go to my RFM Calc account here, and I'm going to create a new project, which is as simple as this. So we'll just go test Volusion. The default project currency is fine, that's GBP. The default text interpretation is fine as well. So if you put European date interpretation here, it will fail because it will think, if I just go back to the order dates, Over here, it will think this is a European date, so just leave it as the default and will default to the US interpretation for that. That's absolutely fine. As I mentioned, the ordering of the orders is oldest to newest, but auto-detect is fine, and it uses a comma for the delimiter, which most CSV files do, so that's fine as well. So that's all we need really for the settings. We're now going to go into the project and schedule our reports. So what I'm uploading now is the raw CSV that I exported, so not the kind of edited version that I just showed in Excel with the columns spread out a bit. This is the original CSV, but all the columns are exactly the same. So for order ID, we've got order ID there. Order date, as you remember, is quite a long way down the list over to that side. So we'll scroll down and we will find order dates. There it is, all the way down there. Currency code, I don't think there is one, but that's fine because all the orders are in GBP. Obviously, the currency code option allows you to specify a currency code if your export has it, and then we'll convert orders that are in a different currency to your base project currency, to your base project currency at the prevailing exchange rate when we generate the report, which is a really cool feature, but obviously not applicable here. For order value, you've got a couple of options, I think. So if we just scroll across to here past the shipping information, I think payment amount is the best. That seems to be the best. That's the actual amount they've paid. So in effect, the gross payment. So we'll go for that as the order total. Order status isn't needed for the generation of the reports. There is a column down here called order status, which I'll select anyway. So all that means is that when you upload your orders, you can filter out particular statuses. So if there's a status that you don't want to include in the report, for example, cancelled orders, you can select the order status column here, which I'm never going to be able to find. Where's it gone? Such a long list of columns. There we go. And then, for example, if I wanted to exclude shipped or cancelled, if there was a cancelled status, I could just put that in this exclusion list here. Now, for the customer ID, as I mentioned, there's no email address, but every customer does appear to get an internal customer ID because they're forced to create an account. So that's nice and easy there. We'll select that as customer ID. No email column, as I mentioned, but there is bizarrely a phone column. And also, we've got first name and last name split into separate fields with Volusion, which we can do there. And then, was there a company? Yeah, billing company name as well. So you've got all the fields here apart from email. These fields aren't essential. So all this means is that when we display certain information in the reports, we'll display information related to customers. So for example, we may have your top 10 best customers, just as a really basic example, which would list out their details. Obviously, if you don't have these set, we can't do that, but it's not essential. It's not essential data, so it won't affect any of the numeric data in the report if you're not able to set these. Finally, if your account plan supports it, we've got custom columns here. So what this allows you to do is generate additional reports around certain fields. So things like lifetime value, average time to second order, and so on, based on what the customer selected for their first order in this column. So a nice easy one is payment methods. So that's under, if I scroll back, payment method ID. So it's not a descriptive name, but you can still use this as long as you know what those IDs mean, and that'll tell you, for example, based on the payment method the customer selected, what their lifetime value is, and that's really cool information. And you can, of course, add additional columns to the CSV as well, so you can generate your own custom columns, and then we'll create data around those as well. So that's the flexibility uploading as a CSV gives you. And then that's pretty much it. So we'll just call this test Volusion 1. And there's the option here to anonymize customer data. Obviously, it's all test data that I'm using anyway, so we don't need that. That won't affect any of the numeric data in the report. It just means we'll hide any real names and email addresses. And then finally, you've got the option here to overwrite the default project column mappings. So all that means is all these columns that I've set, and you'll appreciate with Volusion there's a long list, so you probably don't have to do this again if you can avoid it. All these column mappings that I've set will automatically be set next time I schedule a report against this project. You can still override them for each individual report, that's no problem, but in terms of kind of getting that base column mapping in, that'll be set next time I schedule a report here. And then that's it. So we can see now the report is queued. I'll get an email in a couple of minutes saying that's been generated, and that will have all the data in that I need. So, just to summarise, we've had a look at Volusion today. We've spoken a little bit about the platform as a whole. We've had a nice admin demo in terms of some of the functionality that it contains. I've also done a bit of a front-end demo too, just to run through some of the features or lack of features on the front end. We've then demonstrated how to export an order as a CSV file, or a list of orders, I should say. We've then taken a deep dive into that CSV for all the columns and fields it contains. And finally, I've shown you how to upload that CSV into RFM Calc to generate your report. So I hope that's been useful. Thanks for watching, really appreciate it. Obviously, if you've got any questions on this or anything around the RFM Calc system, feel free to drop us a line via the website. Thanks everyone, and see you next time. Bye.